Good afternoon and welcome once again to the Polity, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of Kaftan Television. Now, like we've said last week and the day before, we still have conversations leading up to the governorship elections. We're taking a look and a post-mortem, so to speak, of the presidential elections and the National Assembly elections, and moving forward to the governorship elections, which have been postponed to March 18th, due to issues with reconfiguring of the beavers over contestation of the election results. We'll talk about this and many more in the course of the program. I've been joined now by two guests to speak on these issues, including the governorship elections ahead and also the presidential elections that have already happened. I'm Amadino Berry. Welcome once again. Now, with me in the house is, to my right, Chief Patrick Eholo. He's the founder of One Love Foundation, and he's also Director, Contact and Mobilization for the Labour Party in Diaspora. And to my left, I have legal practitioner Samuel Inyeseken Jr. He joins me now to add more spice when it comes to the legal aspects. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you, viewers.
All right. So before we go ahead, our phone lines are open. You can call in to join the conversation if you so please. And let's start with the legal aspect before we move on to more issues. Something happened and something so special about this election. The person who has been deemed the president-elect, talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, did not win in the FCT and did not get 25%. As a matter of fact, only one candidate got the required 25% or the minimum requirements in the FCT. What does that mean for the election? Does that, because we know the Constitution says, I'm sure you can speak better on that, 25% in 2/3 of the states and FCT. Now, the president-elect did not get 25% in FCT. What are the legal ramifications to that?
Yes, I've heard the opinions and the legal interpretation of eminent lawyers and legal scholars, and I've also taken my time. In the course of the election, I heard sensibly the explanation given by human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana. I also heard his own take on the issue, and authoritatively, specifically, what actually provides for that provision is as, if you have a copy of your constitution, is that in section 1392B and 129 that talks about the FCT as state. Section 1392B specifically says for a candidate to be declared as a winner of the presidential election, he must have won in 2/3 places, and in consonant would have also had 25% of the vote. However, the interpretation of that is that, and also too, with the FCT, that's what that provision says, inclusive of the FCT. It's the opinion of some people on this other side saying that the FCT, for you to be declared as a winner, provided your win is up to the 2/3, that's the 25%, you must not necessarily win the FCT. I differ in complete opinion to such views. The Constitution has actually stated it clear, and when the word "shall" it's used in the provisions of any law, the literal interpretation of this is that there is a compelling circumstances. If the word "shall," it is mandatory. The Supreme Court have held in several decisions that the word "shall" is mandatory. So I stick to the opinion of Mr. Olisa Agbakoba-San. For a candidate to be declared as a winner of a presidential election, he must win as the FCT. The provisions of section 129 that Mr. Femi Falana rely on is a general provision. It doesn't relate to the presidential election. Let's get the two distinctions very, very clear. Let's be very, very clear. I differ in opinion, total opinion, to the views expressed by Mr. Femi Falana. The section 129, it's specifically is referring to FCT as one, but do FCT has a governor? These are the questions. So the provision that has to do with this election is the one provided in section 1392B and 134 that deals with the presidential election. We must always relate minutes in law to the particular circumstances in which they refer to. That is my take on that.
All right. Just an assessment.
So in assessment, it is my view. It is my humble opinion. I take responsibility for it. I don't intend prejudicing the case the parties have in the court. It is my view, for any person to be declared as a winner, that person must have won 25% of the vote cast in the FCT. In the absence of that, that means the person has not won the election.
And there should be a rerun of sorts.
It is left for the tribunal to go on and interpret that section. And mind you, there's actually a Supreme Court decision that has affirmed my position and said you must win in the FCT. I will hope that when the Supreme Court, this matter gets to the Supreme Court, that same decision, they are able to rely on it and give their opinion.
Yes. Although people will say it makes it looks as though FCT residents are more special than the rest, but that will be another case to determine. So let's talk about the issue of collation.
Yes.
And you know, all the way from the polling units to the ward level and the final issue. What is your take on the process in this election and the final results that we got?
Well, I think my take is very simple. I think we'll go back again to what the INEC promised us. The INEC promised us a free, credible, fair election. I've said it severally that I googled Yakubu Mahmoud. He promised Nigerians that they are going to transmit the results from the polling stations. That doesn't limit the agents not to have their records, to also either you send it by phone or either you take it to a collation center, and there can be a comparison whether manually or digitally. I think they were doing that in order for people to have this sense of security that this election is going to be credible. But what you see was a clear shamble. It wasn't an election. It was an election that was rigged. It was an election that they were allocating vote for candidates. For example, we've never had it in any election in the world where you have a result in Bauchi, you have a result in a different state, and it will be same result. It's never happened. You also see, I mean, if you want to eat a toad, you eat the fat and the juicy one. So when you are called a toad eater, you answer with pride. If Mahmoud was going to, bring this whole ringing and criminality into this thing, he would have perfected. He didn't do it well. Now, you gave Peter Obi, His Excellency, 12 states. You gave His Excellency Obaga 12 states. You gave His Excellency Tinubu 12 states. I mean, and then, you call it draw, but a little figure with difference that said, okay, His Excellency Tinubu, you come first, Elijah Atiku, you come second, and then Peter Obi, you come third. It's shamble. These are just, they're playing with our intelligence. I mean, we're too smart to believe that this is actually a credible or a genuine result. So I think with the citizen, we did our best to make sure that we voted and also ensure that we're there when the vote were being counted or when the vote were being transmitted. And now, the question Nigeria had to ask is that we were able to use the same beavers to transmit the House of Representative election, right? We also use the same beaver to transmit the national, which is a senatorial election. Then what happened? Why did somebody want to go and disrupt the cyber so that we cannot use it to transmit the president? That's a question you must ask. And that's why when Dino Melaye of PDP were on the floor, he was asking Mahmoud a very sensitive question, that if you know that this election, there's been a lot of errors that we need to correct, please be patient to have the real result instead of you announcing a result that's going to cause Nigerian pain and we are ending up in court. But we wouldn't listen because it was being controlled by the power that being. And I think more Nigeria realized today that the election was rigged election, and that's why we went to the court to go and contest the election. And however, even we as Nigerians, we also have the right, if we feel that we've been cheated, to sue the INEC. And that's why I've also, thought of approaching the court with my foundation. I am the president of One Love Foundation. I've had a lot of issues with the court. I get myself into unnecessary trouble, and this is going to be one of them. I'm going to ask them to tell me why they have to, take our right from us. This is our right. Our right is our life, it's a civic responsibility to vote for people or to be voted for. And we as Nigerians, we behave very responsibly. We came out very earnestly to go and cast our vote. So I'm surprised that Mahmoud Yakubu wants to play with the temper of Nigerian citizens.
Right. Do you think you have any particular advantage in this struggle, being that a majority or a great portion of the Labour Party movement is driven by young people? We know that as it stands, they've already created some sort of alternate server where people can send in their original pictures of the results, just as a way to balance and check what INEC is doing, and at the end of the day present all of these things. Is that going to do your party a favor? Because these are people that are not even perhaps officially Labour Party supporters, but they are obedient, and they have taken it upon themselves to do
the thing is that we have no other country. It's our country, I honestly tell you that a lot of people are not happy. It's when a country has a country is an election, and there's going to be winner or losers, right? The citizen of Nigeria is supposed to be celebrating with anyone who is declared winner, very credible, right? You cannot celebrate criminalities. You cannot celebrate, such a winner now if we are not satisfied that this election were credible election. And to go back to the question you asked, it is not about Labour Party, Labour Party was just a vehicle for Peter Obi, because we don't have what you call independent candidacy. If we had independent candidacy, you can contest, and if you have the same ideology that Peter Obi has, that becomes a movement, we're also going to support you to actualize the dream for better Nigeria. But the fortunate part of it is that the Labour Party were fortunate that he was able to use their vehicle to get to where we are. Don't forget that the older men did not participate in NSAS. NSAS was just like a warning that we were tired and sick, of this inequality, right? Let me use that word, inequality, right? So those who are driving this thing, they're very technologically inclined. They're very smart people. Nigeria are very unique people. And when they want to do something rightly, they'll do it rightly, and they get the benefit. When they want to do it wrongly too, I pray they don't go the wrong way. I pray they go the right way. So I will answer your question. This is not about Labour Party. It's about Nigeria. It's our time that Nigeria should be able to keep their promise. Then why on earth do we spend 350 billion? Why on earth? We are a country of 200-something million in speculation, because the last time we do a census, I'm not sure you were even born. I'll probably be about 20-something years. I'm almost 60 years now. So Nigeria is guesstimating when they say we are 200-something, we are this. We don't really know our real figure, because some people don't have birth certificate. Some people don't even have record of their birth, right? But if they had, say, we are 220 million. You can do the maths. We divide 350 billion for us Nigerians as sort of a welfare package, that what Canada would do, or what America would do, or what the England or Germany would do, right? I'm sure a lot of women in Nigeria, a lot of men in Nigeria will not be facing this hardship. Each and every one of us will take that money and do business that can provide for the basic necessity for our family. So I think the Nigeria should be asking Mahmoud, what's his name? Mahmoud what? Yakubu. It's very difficult for me to memorize bad people's names. He's a very bad man. He did very bad thing to us, okay? We should ask him, why did he do this to Nigeria? Because he promised us 68 times that this election is going to be fair, free, and credible, that we're going to transmit the result. So why on earth he was able to transmit the Federal House as representative result, the Senate result, and he couldn't transmit the presidential result through the beavers? That's the question we should be asking.
Right. All right, let's just go back to you now, Mr. Samuel, in a second. We got your early thoughts around when there were no declaration of results at the time, and you gave an overview of what you thought about the elections. I'd like to get your thoughts now, days or perhaps weeks after. What do you now think about the process?
It was what really happened. I foresaw the situation we are. If I tell you I'm shocked at the behavior and the courage and the misdemeanor and everything INEC has done, I'll be lying to you. I knew from the onset this election was not going to be, it's not going to turn out the way the ordinary people and people who voted, how they feel. I've always insisted that INEC, we have to put our eyes on INEC. It's not the electorates now. The accusation now on this last election that was done, it is no longer the people now. It is now INEC. All the allegations, the infractions, everybody, people are not even talking about the winner of the election. People are not talking about APC as a party. The allegations now, the sword of Damascus now is on the head of INEC. The allegations of mass rigging, the allegations of infractions. You see, INEC has put itself in a situation whereby the Nigerian people are going to interrogate them through the courts. I've subsequently looked at, there are ample provisions in our electoral act, the new electoral act, that provides for electronic transmission of results. Right from the polling center to any collation center and view what they call the IRF, for the people to have a first-hand information as to the score. That aspect, section 139, section 58, the INEC guidelines on the election 2022 signed, which is provided for by section 139, actually gives direction and gives compelling reasons why the beavers will be used. The beavers is you get the scanned copy of the result, the presiding officer, the from INEC 8, from INEC 9, and to then be sent to the collation center. We are surprised. We could see that from this election, we could see that none of this was complied with. And these are a ground for actually overriding the process of the election that was conducted. I wonder how, there are some situations in law that becomes practically indefensible. I will not want to go to the nitty-gritty of why I feel it is most importantly too. Before this time, Chief Patrick Holo, who's here, and an activist, Didier Deyaju, they've been in a running battle with a particular INEC commissioner who's allegedly a card-carrying member of the APC. The matter is still pending before the court. An eminent lawyer, let me not mention his name, actually made a very sweeping allegation, a very strong allegation, that there are 6 members of INEC who are REC members, who are card-carrying members of APC. These are issues. And we have an election that was conducted, and a lot of Nigerians feel aggrieved with the process. How do we remove from this impasse? How do we move from where we are? What do we do to rectify the situation? What happens next after now? And meanwhile, there are fears that the forthcoming governorship election and the gubernatorial election, it might also play out the way the presidential elections were conducted. I sincerely believe that INEC should perform better. We are getting to the point where Nigerians are becoming agitated with the process.
Right, just to cut in there, do you think perhaps INEC did his own work and has some legal covering? If you recall, when Senator Dillon Menari stood up, I can't remember what particular portions he quoted, but there's a part he mentioned which the INEC chairman reiterated that, quote unquote, INEC has the jurisdiction to review. That is an afterthought.
He has no such powers. When the provisions of a law mandatorily shall, most of the words used in the electoral act, they are compelling. When the word used shall, it is distinctly compelling on INEC. It has no discretion to override any provisions of the electoral act. It's hard time we start telling Mr. Mahmoud Yakubu the truth to his face. He's not the court that can review the provisions of the electoral act. He has no such powers. He's just saying that as an afterthought. he has no such powers to review the ample provisions of a law that was enacted by the Nigerian legislature. Mr. Mahmood Yakubu has no such powers. The only thing he can do is to consequentially obey the provisions of the Electoral Act with his literal interpretation. And the interpretation of the ample provisions of the different, which I've just enumerated now, he can, yes, we're on air, they can check. It is for him to implement it. He has no other, or any other thing he's saying. That means we are heading to another situation where we will not like ourselves.
All right. Chief Patrick Elo, I'd like to get your thoughts on a development we are seeing. I'm sure you're aware that there are pockets of violence in some places, in Lagos particularly. So what we've been seeing online is that some young persons and voters have been planning ahead of that day, and some decided that they were going to go out with their dogs, their pets, and they said, you know what, if we're attacked, we'll let loose our dogs, and the dogs will fight for us. And then, you know, in a very preemptive method, the Nigerian police released a statement saying that dogs are not allowed, and that the Electoral Act says something about, you know, not bringing certain things to the polling units. So that's being said, if citizens are saying we want to protect ourselves, and they figured out a way they feel they can, and the police are saying that is not the way. And also, to add to that, when the video of a policeman watching as people destroyed ballot box went viral, one of the police spokesman said, what was he to do? He had to, you know, observe and report. So what do citizens do now to protect themselves, to prepare? Because I don't think we can completely write off violence happening.
Thank you for your questions. You know, like you just mentioned that a video went viral, and we all saw what happened that day, where a policeman was seen looking at people damaging ballot boxes, stealing ballots, all kind of manners, you know. And when they were confronted, the spokesperson should have been mute, should have been quiet, but he embarrassed the whole institution of the police force by saying that, what do we expect the police to do? We expect the police to keep law and order, to, you know, protect the citizens, right? So that there's no violence or there's no anarchy. But the police fail to do that. I also saw some instances, I'm not here to indict the police, I'm telling you what they did. Some instances where some police were assisting the thugs to steal ballot boxes. We saw that. We also saw even in my state, I'm from Edo State, where it was allegedly said that the governor also went to his ward, Governor Obaseki, to, you know, ask his vigilante to cost mayor because he had lost in his ward. So go back to your question. Before the election, I think it was during the time when it becomes clear that the police can no longer protect us, that we as citizens have to protect ourselves. I approached the court, it's still in the court. I've lived in Canada for 36 years of my life, and I approached the court that I want anybody after 18 years that doesn't have criminal record should be allowed to carry firearms, because you cannot be traveling with your wife, your children, and they've been violated in presence of you. Some of them, you know, seize them, kidnap them, do all kind of terrible things to them, and then you are helpless. So that's why I was very pained when I approached the court. I think the case is being handled by one of my counsel. His name is Ostia Kahome. We're still in court. I want Nigeria to, retrace their step back to allow us to carry gun, because you see that the police can protect us. Nobody can protect us. We can protect us.
Will that lead to more anarchy?
No, it will not. Look at, for example, in America, right? We see some, every country has its own crime. Some people, when their mind is off, they feel they can't live again, they can cause some damage to themselves or to others. But in our own case here, we are law-abiding citizens. It's extraordinary in the Constitution, I'm not a lawyer, that the government must protect life, Section 4, life and property. So if it's enshrined in the Constitution that the government in Section 4 has to protect life and property, and the government has failed to protect life and property, are we going to just sit down and watch people kill us? So for those who take their dog, want to unleash their dog, or went with knife or gun to protect themselves, I'm not approving it, but if I was in their shoe and I fear my life, I would do the same thing. You know, so it's our time for the government to focus on the real issue. To recruit more police. You know, in certain country, they have 2 million citizens. They have about 400,000 police. And yet we are 200 and something million. Our police not even up to 500,000. It's not a joke. You can find out yourself. And that's why I'm saying that if we want to have one country, you cannot be asking for peace when there's no justice. You need to get, justice before you seek peace. Are you with me now? Yeah. And that's the reason why the tribunal, the judges, I'm appealing to them because they have children, they have family. What are they going to tell their children or their wives if there's a miscarriage of justice? And that's the reason why some of us, or even our principal, His Excellency Peter Obi, has chosen not to congratulate the Senator-elect President Asiwaju Tinubu, not because he doesn't want to, but because you cannot celebrate criminality. You cannot celebrate somebody you felt that, just openly with Mahmoud Yakubu raped the democracy. We are still healing our wound. That is why we are hoping that the last hope of the common man is supposed to be the judiciary, that the judges would do their utmost best. The same way they did it recently when the governors didn't have money to ring elections. They were very paying. They all teamed together, including Yahya Bello and Aero5. They all went to court, Supreme Court, and compared the Supreme Court to say the people are suffering. They can't buy, they can't sell. You need to relieve their pain. And the Supreme Court find in their wisdom that truly the people are suffering. And they said, the government is wrong. The president doesn't have the electoral power to say, stop spending or control you how to spend your money, because your money, they had violated that right. And thank God, right? They uphold it, and then they extended it to December 31st. We're also praying and hoping. We also see such men, such good men, such men with character, such men with transparency, such men that money cannot buy, such men that want to have story to tell their grandchildren in the middle of crisis that we are today, to do the needful, to at least to re-examine. Ask Mahmoud, call him to the evidence box, make him a hostile witness to testify. To testify, to ask him the same thing I saw. He's told us.
Has the power to declare president immediately.
Whether he had the power to declare the president immediately, whether he's going to declare president at 4 a.m. the morning when we're all sleeping. I mean, there are certain things that is fishy here. And again, there are so many questions. I want to ask him that. Did you not promise Nigeria 68 times that it's going to be transparent, it's going to be fair, it's going to be credible, that it's going to be transmitted? Then what stopped you? Why did you transmit the House of Rep, transmit the House of Senate, and you did not transmit the presidency? So there's so many things that's unfolding. But I want to thank God for Nigerian youth. I want to thank God for our aging mother. I want to thank God for our father who know that one day they are going to leave this earth for us. They are trying to do the right thing, to rewrite the history. Because it has always been one way. We have some cabal, a system that think that we mean nothing. We're all Nigerians, okay? We are Nigerians, and we all deserve to be treated fairly, respectfully. If anybody is playing with your vote, is playing with your life, because it's your right to vote, and your life is your right. As such, my life is also my right.
All right,
that's
Chief,
why I say.
let's quickly hear from one of our callers. Hello, good afternoon. You're on to the Polity. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Shola. I'm calling you from Plateau State, Jos.
All right, Mr. Shola, go ahead.
My question is, looking at this political uproar that we're having in the country and the seemingly non-adherence of the INEC to what the law it has stated. When we look at it, these laws, is it in the real acts of the INEC? Yes. Or it's just a sub-law that was created after they feel the need to have a transparent election? After that, other political parties that are complaining of being marginalized in the election, they have candidates that won their legislative seats, does that mean that those elections too were not free and fair? Let's be very, very open to whatever we are going to say, and let's call a speed a speed. Seriously, to my own end here, this election, compared to other elections that we've had, I think it's a bit fair, though maybe the computation of the results is faulty. But I want these people to answer me. These elections, for other political parties that collected their certificate of returns for the House of Reps and the Senate, are those one free and fair? And let's look at the Southeast. The margin of Peter Obi as against other candidates, is that also free and fair?
Let me have time before the light will come. Okay, I will respect him. I respect his opinion. It is right to ask this question, but it's my also right to answer him. First of all, if you're talking about margin that comes from the Southeast, I don't want it to be an ethnic issue. This is Nigeria, okay? You know what I mean? People are tired of the old cabals. The young people have suffered enough. The young people came out earnestly to vote. So if you have a lesser vote in the north, it means that the beavers have exposed them, because you saw it everywhere when children that is not up to 7 years were being thumbprinting. These are a true story from the north. Before now, when we are going to celebrate from the south that election is being won, they say, wait, let the north vote come in. They have a block vote. There's not a block vote there. What they have there was a very fraudulent vote, and that's why the apathy or the low turnout vote seems to be there. It wasn't that people didn't came out earnestly to vote in the north, but they don't have the numbers they claim that they have in the north, because the beavers have what they call the facial recognition. All right, so they could not bring that fraud to bearing, and that's why the vote were low there. And you will also know that in the history of politics, a Southerner has not won election overwhelmingly the way they won in the north this time. Because what I said here...
All right, Chief Patrick, just a moment. Let's hear from another caller. Then you go ahead. All right. Good afternoon. This is the Polity. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good afternoon. My name is Chrissy Afere.
All right. Go ahead. Good afternoon.
My name is Chrissy Afere. I want to state it very clear now that what my brother there, the leader of Labour Party in Edo State, Patrick Olo, has said, is very clear. Peter Obi is an institution that has come to rectify all and nullify all the negative things that has been happening in the polity. In fact, Peter Obi is now what the Vatican is to the Catholics in Nigerian politics. Peter Obi has come to sweep away the old order. He keyed into the aspirations of the youth and the majority of Nigerians. What the majority of Nigerians wanted was the elimination politically of the cabal from the system, so that Nigerians can breathe. Nigerians are suffocating. As I'm talking to you, I want to cry. Nigerians is not in a state of war, but Nigerians were tracking out of Nigeria. Nigerians were dying in the desert. Nigerians were dying in the Moroccan Sea. Nigerians cried out, but nobody listened to them except you, the media, who makes them to finally understand that the power is in their hands, that their votes matters a million. Their votes can change their situation. And finally, the fellow who calls himself Mahmoud gave assurances to the world that Nigeria will get it right completely and totally through the beavers and IRS. The rest is history. We all know what happened. But now, the onus is now on the judiciary. Nigerians are keenly watching. They are watching them. You see, there is a great silence in the whole country. It's not as if the country cannot pour more than answers. But everybody is quiet because we are watching the judiciary to see if they will compromise the will of the people as has been portrayed to be seen in previous cases of national interest.
All right. Thank you so much for calling.
If the Chief Justice can go and visit Tinubu in his house, it's a form of compromising directly.
That's just an allegation.
Look, please, my brother, please just let me drop this. We want to beg the judiciary, let them not divide Nigeria. We love Nigeria. Particularly one of them, I know the man is a human rights activist, a very strong one internationally and nationally. We all love Nigeria. He loves Nigeria. That's why we don't want Nigeria to be divided. But let them not push us to the wall. Because if they do, Nigeria will break up.
Thank you for that.
We believe the judiciary will do their property and their property. Because we want the election clearly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We try to stay away from rhetorics of.
If I can continue where I stopped, to that young man who called before Chris Ayers, right? Let me thank the both of them for their contribution. You cannot question the authentication of somebody who won clearly. When you are not saying, because we are finding something is wrong with the presidency, you are not saying, what about those who won Rep and Senate? Do we question Oshomole winning in Edo State from his own year? No, because Oshomole did well for his people. Because this thing has surpassed, the idea of those about political party. This thing has come finally now that individual is very important. People did not vote along political parties. Some people voted for Peter for presidency. Some people voted for a different candidate because they can attest to the character of that person they are voting for. So for that young man who think that we have to question what is right because we are questioning what is wrong, I think I should educate him. He's a young man, and God bless him for calling. Nothing is wrong with those who won. We only question the illegality.
We're interrogating the process of electionary by INEC.
All right, let's have another caller. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, this is
Akin calling from Lagos State.
all right, Mr. Akin. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I was listening to the conversation there. Very interesting. But the man wearing cap there, I just want to advise him, at least when he's making comments about the national issue, he should not be that too selfish, because he's trying to castigate the North, okay? And which is not very, very good in its own response, because I'm from the southwest, from the southern part of the country, okay? But nonetheless, the fact that that is the beaver is helped us to at least eradicate the ghost voters doesn't mean that that didn't even help in the North itself. So that's aside. Then the issue of transmission or no transmission, when issue is in the camp, I expect at least we should believe in the judiciary. That is one, because that is the last hope of the common man, as it says. And then at the same time, when you are talking about transmission, the court will let us know whether it was to be transmitted or not to be transmitted. And I want to believe that the Labour Party, the PDP, and APC, and all the parties from the polling unit, they have their results with them. Okay? So all these things are facts that they ought to use. So if INEC has done something wrong, they should have a way of detecting it, not trying to turn the country into crisis. The fact that some of the people are not talking on the television does not mean that they themselves don't have the youth, okay? Because the claim is that one side have more youth, because what is saying that Peter Obi, that Peter Obi is coming to rescue the youth. Fine, we know we are all in crisis in Nigeria, that is the fact. But are you telling me 65 years plus the youth? That is the section that LT brought to us. Peter Obi is never a youth. So if youth really want a youth to become the leader of this country, they rather look for a youth that has never mingled with this evil people before. Peter Obi is part of them, so I don't want to hear anything.
Let him be, don't cut it.
I can respond to him. Thank you so much.
Can I just say something that kid that comes?
No, let me respond to him.
I'd like to say something, okay? It's, first of all, these kids need to be educated. I cannot be the man.
It's my generation.
I cannot say the man on cap. He needs to be educated. He needs to be refined. Okay. I mean, there was an intro, right? He knows my name, right? And again, he's being emotional. He's being like, nobody's talking about Peter Obi being 65 or not. We're talking about the person that really brought out the best in us now, as we're talking about, is Peter Obi. All right? We're not saying it's you. I'm not a youth. I'm 60. I can't be a youth, right? I'm not claiming a youth. So go ahead and respond. But
the issue he was trying to make an issue as to the issue of the transmission of results. That let me help him. He lacks the legal language that the issue is sub judice. I wanted him to be on live.
He's still listening. Go ahead.
Yes. I wanted him to be online. The issue as to transmission of results, the failure of INEC to transmit the results as provided for them in their guideline they enacted, pursuant to the provisions of the electoral that gives them the power to provide that guideline. The issue that has to do with transmission of results, I can tell you authoritatively, is not an issue before any law court today in Nigeria. The election tribunal, the Presidential Election Tribunal, sitting at the Court of Appeal, they've not, parties, he was there yesterday, parties have not even filed their petitions. What they have merely just done is to have access to the materials and record that was used for the presidential election. So it is not a matter that I'm a lawyer and I've been practicing for some years, more than a decade, yes. And it is not even an issue that is sub judice in any courts in Nigeria. So the issue as to whether we should wait for the court to pronounce, and the issue of as to transmission of results, I don't even think it will be an issue before the Presidential Election Tribunal. The issue is to it might be one of the grounds, but basically that is not the issue. The issue is whether the provisions of the Electoral Acts that gives a party the power to seek redress in the court, whether it has been activated, whether there has been substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, whether the party has won the lawful vote cast, has met up with the two-thirds provision as provided by the section 139(134)(2)b of the Constitution as I cited earlier. So these are the issues. So just to clarify that caller, the issue as to transmission, we can comment, we can talk about it because it is provided by the INEC guideline. Even the INEC chairman in a video that was recorded by Roots TV actually said that there will be use of the IF, the beavers will be used, and there will be electronic transmission of results, and we can provide that video for the INEC chairman. So what has happened between that time and when the elections was conducted and presided by him? What happened? These are our questions.
But I'd like you to respond to the same question I posed to him earlier.
Yes.
When the police replied about what you can and cannot take to the polling units.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon. This is the Polity. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay. I'm calling from my street. I'm at UK.
All right, Ajuki. Go ahead. Turn on the volume of your TV set so we can hear you properly.
Hello. There's something I want to talk about.
Let him go. We can hear him.
Okay. The issue of voting in a way. I don't think it's a matter to be discussed. For instance, what happened in Abuja?
I'm so sorry, we couldn't hear you. Please, when you call back, make sure your TV is turned off or you're away from it. So I'd like to get
yes, I keep telling the police, they seems to not to know what their duties are. What covers elections in Nigeria is the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act is not the Police Act. What regulates how the provision should go is the Electoral Act, and pursuant to the powers given to INEC is their guideline. The police cannot tell what and what should happen. Their only duty is to maintain peace and order, safeguard lives and property, and protect the electorate who are coming to vote, and make sure that sensitive electoral materials are professionally guided. Expertise, security, it stops at that. The issue as to whether parties should bring dog, whether that is an issue for the INEC to they make it clear in their pronouncement and regulation, and the law enforcement agency should give effect to it. Secondly, to that issue as to that police PRO who made that funny statement, you know, we've always been saying, and I think it came from Lagos. It came from the police PRO Lagos. We've always had problem with that police PRO from that particular session. It's hard time the police council is after the police management council look at some of these officers, some of them are unfit for these positions they give to them, because that is a very sensitive position, and it is an interface between the people and the police. It is a very classical statement with no basis and definition. And I think by now, with the outcry of how people have criticized that tweet and statement here, I think by now he would have been seconded from his duties. Let a person that has a superior knowledge. The work of a PRO is so sensitive. It is an interface. When there is a breakdown, then you will not get any results. So I urge the Police Management Council, that particular officer who was their PRO, who gave that statement, not the General Police PRO, who gave that particular, I think they should look into it, and they should make sure that that person is excused for his unfit. Let's
talk about the video he was commenting on.
Yeah, the video.
There was a police.
Yeah, the video he was commenting.
And that policeman made a statement.
Yeah, that
we will file the report. You know, while it was happening in his presence, they didn't make moves to stop them. And they, from the look of the video, the people attacking didn't have any weapons. And so the obviously the people that were, you know, speaking to the policeman, why don't you stop them? And he said, we'll write a report.
What would have been a post-mortem? Next after that, why would a police officer who was armed with him, who's supposed to protect the citizen, and the citizen become distraught?
But the policemen were not armed.
Oh, I mean, why were they not armed in such a place where you know you're going to have an overwhelming crowd? Against the problem of the police. The police, listen, when I was arrested in NSAS, my statement that I made, that it was my famous quote that said, the police are yet to learn their lesson. They're not learning their lesson. The police need to be reformed. They need to be trained. That's why we're having this problem. You know, there's every institution in Nigeria that, you know, need to be reformed, and one of them is the police. Police need to be reformed, and they need to be trained.
All right. Thank you so much. We've almost run out of time. I'd like to just get closing statements from you. You know, the topic itself is ahead of governorship elections. What are your postulations or your predictions and outlook for March 18?
Let him go first.
Yes, my outlook for the March 18, my query is the Independent National Electoral Commission. They must comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act. They must also stick to their guidelines as enacted by Nigeria. We are all Nigerians who are reasonable and who are learned, have a copy of these laws and have a copy of these guidelines. They should not go outside the context of what has been given to them. If they have said that they will use the beavers, it will need not to go an afterthought and go on different narrative again. They should comply with the law that created them. Comply with, we as a body, One Law Foundation, we have written to the INEC chairman, and we are waiting their official response. But we are not waiting. We don't want a situation. You know what? One thing that happened in before the last presidential election, nobody took INEC to mandatorily enforce the provisions of to implement the beavers. They took the legal profession by surprise, and everybody who are sensitive to the bill were not taking that chances. By tomorrow, they should meet us in court. We're taking them to court to make sure they comply with the salient provisions as to the usage of beavers, electronic transmission of results, and the IRF. Thank you.
Chief,
you know, for me, it's to encourage everybody to go out there, you know, vote for a preferred candidate. But I've asked my lawyer to have more, like 20 or 25 more lawyers to compare the INEC with the order of the madness, to make sure that, you know, what they promised Nigeria, they deliver it, or they carry the blame. Like you just said that the sword of Damascus is in the head of the INEC.
All right, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. All right, I'll see you later tonight on the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. That's what we take on this segment of the program. We're going to short break. When we return, we'll be joined by another guest to speak on other issues concerning the state of the nation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.